All right, this is a quick video on debugging and how to set breakpoints and use the inspector. So this side-by-side editing interface is really nice, but it makes it really much harder to use the browser's tools, which are the best debug tools that exist. The tools built into Chrome and Firefox are so good, there's really no point in using anything else. So we're going to go change view in debug mode. If you don't see debug mode, maybe you don't own the code. You've got to fork and do it. That's a mistake I just made when I was looking at some students' code. All right, once I'm in debug mode, I've got just the web page running, which is much nicer. I can right-click inspect to get the inspector open. There's also a keyboard shortcut to do that. All right, and I apologize I can't make this font much bigger. In the inspector, you'll probably see the element view by default. That's letting you inspect the HTML of the page. The console view will let you see any console log statements you've made. You can also actually type JavaScript right in there, which is very handy. What we're going to do in this tutorial is look at the sources view. Now, if you are in Codepen, your sources are going to be over here. It'll show you the code comes from codepen.io and then the name of your file and then some little random string of letters, which is what it's naming your web page, and that will be a web page. That's your main source code. You'll also see any other code that's used on the page. So in this page, we see code coming from Google Font APIs. That's probably how this student has gotten that cool font. And we see code coming from tomhinkle.net. That's my library that I gave you coming from my website. You can also debug all that code, but you're just going to look at your own code for now. So if we look at this file here, this is a little confusing in Codepen. It's a little clearer in Replit. This is all the HTML of your page. In Codepen, it shows you these in separate windows, but then it weaves them all together in one file when you're done. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see this script called rendered.js, and that is the actual code that you're running. Cool, now we're looking at it. So in this case, the student is wondering why the spawning code isn't working. This is supposed to run this update world function, and update world is supposed to, every time a ball has gone by a certain amount of time, create a new ball. So what we can do to stop the code and look inside is we can just we put a little green green flag there by clicking on the line number. And because this is a piece of code that runs continuously every animation frame, you'll notice the program has immediately stopped because the debugger's entered. If you had put the line on code that doesn't run immediately, it wouldn't have stopped immediately. So let me just show you what I mean. For example, my screencasting software is getting in the way of the normal pause button. But here, if I put the line here, this code only runs when we run the page. So I can set the flag and then reload the page to stop my code there. Now, if I drag up this pane, this will let me look in. Here I can see the call stack, everything that's been called. And I can see the variables. At this point, the only scope is global. And here's every variable that exists in the global scope. So I can also hover over things and see like, oh yeah, the color variable is defined, the CX variable is defined, the CY variable is defined. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set the debugger where we actually want it. And I can hit this play button to run the code again. All right, and now we've actually drawn something, and I can check on what's going on here. So right next to the code, it shows me the value of every variable. So I can see step time is defined, width is defined, height is defined, and I can see elapsed is undefined because the student has misspelled it. So that's my sort of immediate troubleshooting step. And I can see what's happening here. It says if next ball, well, next ball is undefined there. If not next ball will become elapsed plus next ball. You might be curious what happened there. So now I can check. Next ball became this weird symbol, NAN. that's not a number. And this is one of the frustrations of JavaScript is that it is very tolerant. So if you add up something that's not a number with something that's a number, rather than getting an error like you would in many languages, you just get this new object called not a number. So it didn't throw an error, but undefined is greater than not a number will never return true. So these statements will never run. We can go ahead now and fix that code if we like, and we can continue debugging. The key thing to understand is we can always check. Let me go ahead and just fix it quick and show you what it looks like corrected. So I'll come back to the editor view. I'll go ahead and fix the student spelling error. That should be elapsed. I have to click save to make it update the debug view. It's not instant the way it is in the editor view. And then I can reload this page. All right. And I see now that this time I'm going to get a red X because LSAP is not defined, because I actually only fixed the spelling error in one place. So notice how quickly I saw that error by using the debug view. That was much faster than it probably was without the debug view. Now I'll go ahead and fix the spelling error everywhere. I'll click save again. I'll pop over to my debug view and I'll refresh. And again, nothing is rendered. I'm stopped in here. But now I can see, okay, elapsed is still undefined. Interesting. All right, so now even with the spelling correct, elapsed is coming through as undefined every time. Interesting. All right, so now I've got a bigger mystery, which is why elapsed isn't defined for this function. I'll have to figure that out. Okay, so this is actually a good example of where it can be helpful to see not only the local variables you can watch, but also on this left-hand side, we have what's called the call stack. And that shows us how the function got called. So update world is not being called with elapsed. So let's see why not. Let me go back to update. All right, there inside of update, I see here I had a function that just passed on the elapsed variable. And there's that same typo again. So it's actually every error so far has been the same error, just found in different places. If I had a Codepen does not support good search and replace, which is kind of crazy. I know we love Codepen because it's instant, but might be worth finding tools with better find replace. All right, so there we go. Now we fixed that issue, and I can hit save again, and I'll pop back in. This page is not going to reload right away because it's frozen because I have that breakpoint set. So I'm going to go ahead and click reload on the browser. You can't see that because it's out of the screencast. When I reload the page, immediately nothing happens. But now I can see elapsed is 0 this time. Next ball is undefined, however. So I can see the next error the student has made, which is that if next ball isn't defined, it gets set to be elapsed plus undefined, which is going to be not a number. So next ball will never be defined here. So that's going to be an issue as well. And again, it's pretty straightforward to figure out how to fix this. Instead of setting it to elapsed plus next ball, I think the student means ball every time means like every ball every second is what the student means. So the reset should not be elapsed plus next ball. It should be elapsed plus ball every time. And that, again, is very quick to see in the debugger. It would take a long time to figure that out without all of that. I'll fix that variable name to ball every time now. So let me go ahead and click save. And before I finish this tutorial up, I would like to just show it to you with working code. So we'll go ahead here, stop, and refresh. All right. Now, I'm stepping through, and again, you could never see this stuff without the stepper because it's happening, 60 frames a second. So elapsed is 0, step time is 0, width and height are 500 and 500. Right away, I can see things look normal. I'm getting values that make sense. All right, now, if not next ball, that code is running, which I expect. Next ball is going to be set to 0 plus 1,000, which should make sense. 1,000. One oddball effect of using this debugger here is, of course, rather than running 60 times a second, this is now going to run every 30 seconds because I'm sitting here troubleshooting it. Is 0 greater than next ball? No, so that code won't run. This little step button lets me just step forward. The play button will let me play the next frame. And if I want to remove the breakpoint, I just click the little green thing and get rid of it. Normally there's a play button on the web page. It's not loading because of this screencasting interface is getting in the way of it. If I just hit reload, I should now see it reload. And all right, I'm now getting another error. This one actually has a nice error statement in the console, and I can click through and find that and see target is undefined in this. So here I'll go ahead and set a breakpoint there, reload, run this code. I can also set a option in here. Where is it? Pause on exceptions. So this will make it automatically pause instead, because right now this thing runs constantly, so pausing there makes it very hard to find this bug. If I click pause on exceptions, I can get rid of that breakpoint. All right, and here I can see what's happening. Okay, hit target is being called here with an undefined target. So the question is, I don't know where in this code target gets defined, but it looks like there is no target here. So I have to know this student's code a little better. But I can see right away the problem is, okay, this thing says I can't read target of undefined. This code here, 122, says hit target of target. And then I guess I got to scroll back and find where does target come from. It looks like target might be some kind of, I can look in the scope here. Now we'll keep using the inspector. So if I want to wonder where is target coming from, hit target. Is it in the create ball closure? It is. Create ball is where target is defined, and somehow it's undefined when that code runs. So I can come here, search for the function create ball. Oh, I see. Create ball is supposed to be handed a target as an argument. So now it's up to the student to figure out, did create ball get called without a target? My guess is it did. Probably this is the spawning code. He never saw this error before because never saw the code error before because this wasn't ever running. But now see, this says create ball here is called with a number, but here create ball is expected to be called with an object with a target in it. So he just created the ball the wrong way. Create ball should be called this way. All right, so I'll let the student figure that out himself. Hopefully this has been helpful.